welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, live, from Black Pearl Studios. We are trying to do this virtual interview thing the best way we know how. I'm going to eventually get it perfected. It's not quite there yet. I still have some things to work on, but we're still coming to you every week. Thanks, AT&T, for shutting down my network yesterday. I had no internet all day. None. So that's a technology I can't fix, y'all. I don't have that fiber optics capability yet. But before we get, I'm not going to waste a lot of time today because we're going to divide it up. We have two guests, two congressional candidates on the show today. But first, before we get started, I would be remiss if I didn't send a huge shout out to Mimi Pruitt and the entire Pruitt family. We lost a soldier last night. We lost one of the best, most sweetest, loving individuals you could have ever met. If you had a chance to meet Jim Pruitt and listen to him talk about how much he cares about people and how he cared about our special needs communities, this was a special individual. And unfortunately, he said goodbye last night. I feel for Mimi, they were married for almost 50 years. This year was their 50th year of marriage. My heart goes out to them, and I'm not going to bring the show down any, because he was a soldier and he would want us to celebrate. But before I go any further, let me introduce you to my first guest, Christina Hale. She's running for Congress in the 5th District. Would you like to speak on Jim Pruitt?
I would. Jim and Mimi were both friends, and they are both two truly kindness personified. And I think they stood for everything good, for democracy, and they're just incredibly big-hearted, wonderful people. And not only did Mimi lose her husband, she lost her high school sweetheart.
High school sweetheart, yeah.
And I know I've seen so many really touching remembrances of Jim online this week as he was ill, and now that he's passed. And I hope that brings comfort to the family, because it's clear everybody sees what a great loss Jim Pruitt is.
Absolutely. And you know what? French Lick will never be the same again. You know, those of us on the Dem side, the French Lick will never, ever be the same again. So
we'll celebrate him there.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, see you on the porch. All right, let's just go ahead and get into this show. Let's talk about who you are, where you come from. First of all, let me say this. I didn't really give her the proper introduction that she deserves. Christina Hale has been around, our state for a long time. But not only has she had her own goals and desires and ambitions, she is one of those folks that always, always leaves the ladder down. I wouldn't have some of the opportunities that I have, like writing for the Indianapolis Business Journal as a monthly contributor, had it not been for Christina Hale. So and it's not just me, there are other countless young women, young women all over our state that can attribute something that Christina Hale has done to give us greater opportunities. It's not just about herself, it's about letting others shine. So tell the people who you are. I know who you are. I know your amazing story. But tell the people who you are and where you come from so they can get to know you.
Well, thank you, Dana, and I really appreciate that warm intro, and it's good to be on the show with friends, too. I'm just a regular Hoosier like everybody else. I grew up in Michigan City, and my life was really pretty average, what you'd expect, and my parents sent me off to school, and they expected me to come home with some kind of diploma or certificate. And I really surprised them, and I surprised myself, and I came home with a baby boy.
Whoa. That's not what they expected.
No. It was something that changed me forever, and I knew that I'd have to step up my game. And I'll tell you, at that time, both of my brothers said to me, "Face it, Christy, you're always going to be a loser." And I thought, no, I'm not. I can't be a loser for this kid. I can't be a loser for myself. And I got to work, and I went to school. I put myself through Purdue North Central, the regional campus up there, the same time I had Owen in school, and doing my own homework and helping him with his. And I'll tell you, I would not be here today. And you mentioned helping other people. I knew I had to have a career playing it forward, because there were two women in particular I think about every day. If it weren't for Deb Chubb, and if it weren't for Jan Katz in my hometown, Michigan City, they started the Child Care Consortium. They helped me get Owen into the Giant Steps program so that he could go to a high quality preschool. I mean, it was tough. He was learning his colors from the Power Rangers. For a while there, I was training babysitting with my friend Roxanne, and that's all I could afford. And it just wasn't getting the job done. And without those women doing that, I wouldn't have made it. And so I knew I had to have a career in service. And I got to work in community and economic development down here in Indianapolis, where I raised Owen. I worked for Governor Frank O'Bannon and for Lieutenant Governor Joe Kernan, who became governor. Mm-hmm. And I spent most of my career actually working for a global NGO that's headquartered right here in the 5th Congressional District, Kiwanis International, which is an organization of regular people that get together every week all over the world to do good things. And for much of my time there, I was working in Europe and Asia Pacific, and I had helped to launch a project to eliminate maternal and neonatal tetanus in the world. Mm-hmm. And we've all probably, everyone I think listening to the show has had a tetanus shot and they know what that is, but at the time, in the 38 worst countries in the world for a woman to give birth, just one shot or just like one act, they've never seen a doctor, but there's some kind of midwife there who might cut the cord during birth with a dirty piece of metal or bamboo, and that baby's fated to an awful death that's totally preventable. Mm. Working in all these communities, and I came back to my own community here in Indiana, and I realized that we had a third of our counties that didn't even have OBGYN service, so women couldn't give birth where they lived. We had some of the worst rates of infant and maternal mortality rates of any state in the nation, and these were problems here, and I knew I had to do something about it. So I ran for office, and at the time, I think you experienced this too, Dana, when you run for office and people tell you you're crazy and you can never win. And,
no, I never heard that. They all knew I could be the Speaker of the House. What are you talking about?
Exactly. But it can be done, and we have to keep on that project, I'll tell you. And that's why I try to be an encourager of everybody who wants to step up and run, because this had been a forever Republican district. Mm-hmm. Right in the heart of the 5th Congressional District. We hadn't had a Democratic representative in years and years and years. In anybody's memory, I was running against a 6-term Republican incumbent, and this was a woman who had voted not once, but twice to not decriminalize breastfeeding in public. And, I've said it before, it made me want to set my hair on fire. And I started knocking on doors.
That's it.
And I knocked, and I know a lot of people listening to this broadcast too have knocked themselves and help. And I want to thank you, everyone out there who's ever knocked a door for a candidate, because it makes a real difference. I only won by 51 votes out of 36,000 cast, and that's after they threw all kinds of negative TV and negative mail at me. But you know what? It's worth it. And I got to that state house, and I got to change some pretty important laws. And I'm really proud of what I did there. I have a record of helping women in vulnerable populations and small businesses and students. And that's exactly what I want to do in Washington when I'm elected, is keep my head down and do the work of the people and work on the issues that really matter and work with anyone and everyone who wants to help me get good things done.
I think it's interesting because one of the pieces of legislation that you were able to get passed here in Indiana when you were in the State House was assault against women on college campuses. Considering the environment that we're in right now, where we have a president who, this dude, he don't mind telling you how nasty he is and putting his hands on people. Talk about the significance of getting that particular bill passed when you have a male-dominated General Assembly and a Republican-dominated General Assembly, and getting that bipartisan work in to get a bill that was definitely needed to get passed and signed into law.
Oh, thank you. I worked on a number of bills that I got passed to fight sexual assault in Indiana. 1 in 6 girls by the time they graduate from high school here have been raped or sexually assaulted. And the data suggests also that by the time a woman leaves this earth, 1 in 5 of us will have been sexually assaulted an untold number of boys and men. We don't track that data very well, but let me tell you, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And it's something that we have to stand strong against. So I've worked again to fight child molestation, child pornography, as well as that. And that bill you're talking about was really important because in Indiana, if you were reporting your assault on a college campus, your victim's advocate, everything that you told that person when you were telling him or her about your assault was reportable in a court of law. It was discoverable. So they had to give testimony if asked by the defense. Everything that victim might have said, even if it wasn't flattering, even if she was talking about her own personal life or what she wore or who her boyfriend or partner was. I mean, it was all discoverable, and they'd use that to get the perpetrator off, and they'd use that to discourage the victim from reporting and fighting that to get that person arrested and convicted. So because of my law, now on campuses everywhere in Indiana, if you report to your victim's advocate, that's private.
Okay.
That's confidential. That person has to keep all of that, everything you want to tell, private to you. And hopefully that's now increased our rates of reporting. Hopefully it's brought a lot of comfort to victims, and hopefully it's also helped aid the conviction of those rapists committing sexual assault.
So talk about what that process is like to actually get to work across the aisle. This is something that you've done. This is something you've accomplished. We had, with all this divide and a lot of people not really interested in working across the aisle, I always said if I was an elected official, I'm going to have to represent people that disagree with me. So I want to make sure that I'm hearing what they're saying. Talk about that process for you. What does that look like? How does it pan itself out?
That's a great question. And, I always thought to myself, where's my power? Where's my power in this position to get things done? And what can I do? And, I was in the overwhelming minority. I wasn't going to be a chairman.
Right.
I was going to have to find the people who also cared about the things that I did. And, I say it all the time, I'll work with anyone and everyone to get things done. And every single bill I passed actually had a Republican co-author or co-sponsor. And I'm proud of that as a Democrat, because that means, and I'll say this, when you come down to these very human issues, they're not partisan. They're not partisan. A lot of my bills on sexual assault that I got passed, it was because I'd be working with a representative from across the aisle who, one in particular, who came to me early on and said, Christina, I believe you because my wife was one of those victims. And we have to do something about it, and I want to help you. And he helped me get my bills heard, and he helped me get them out of the house and passed. And I also am a person who will give credit where credit's due. I tell you his name, but for privacy reasons, he didn't want it shared. But I passed a lot of bills too, proudly, to say like, hey, and that one I'll say in particular that I'm proud of. I was a freshman rep with Ben Smaltz, who is now, I think, chairman of the Public Policy Committee. And Ben and I disagree about so many things, but we both agree that we want to keep child molesters and child pornographers out of schools. So I came to him with the evidence, and I said, Ben, this is not politicized. And he knew he could trust me personally and professionally, that I'd give him, I'd done my homework, and I showed him the data about children aged 0 to 5 reporting at urgent care clinics and emergency rooms with raging sexually transmitted diseases. And yet he saw what was happening in the community. And so we passed a law that said if you're convicted of a set of these violent crimes against children, if you've harmed them in this most violent, awful way, if you're a child pornographer convicted, you may never again set foot on school property in Indiana.
Wow.
And I think that's going to help some kids.
Good. So now that's in the past. That's what you've done. We know that you can get it done. Talk about where this campaign is going right now. There's a whole lot, right? This COVID-19 has just opened up Pandora's box of things that we should be doing differently, should have been doing differently for a very long time. But even still, you're talking to constituents, and they have their concerns. Talk about where your campaign's focus and the issues that are most relevant and to the forefront of why you're running for office, running for Congress. Because I ain't mad that Susan Brooks is going bye-bye. I'm not. She doesn't represent me anymore. I'm down in the 7th now. I got Andre Carson, but she didn't even want to host town halls where people could come and talk to her. But talk about how your campaign is what it's focused on.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, I talked to a lot of people, and the number one issue with everybody, even before this COVID crisis, was healthcare. Mm-hmm. And, access to it, affording it. And when my son, who's now a kind of struggling stand-up comedian in Los Angeles, was a little kid, I was able to ensure that he had health insurance. He was covered. But I didn't always have that for years. I was working all these jobs. I was putting myself through school. I didn't have it. And it was really incredibly stressful to know that I could be one broken bone or one strep throat away from missing a car payment, or something more catastrophic. Maybe I'd just be missing my car or something awful, bankruptcy. And that just shouldn't be.
Right.
Healthcare is a human necessity, and first we have to fight to protect some of the things that were put in place by the Affordable Care Act, such as protecting people with pre-existing conditions. We see how vulnerable people are now when you face something like this disease that's all over the world and right here in Indiana. But I think too, we're seeing through this experience, people know that they have a stake not only in their own health and that of the people they love, but just when you're shopping at Kroger, who touched that cart before you? Who was squeezing the potato that you chose to come home before you did? It matters that the people you're watching the movie with in the movie theater have access to healthcare too. We're all in this together. But at the end of the day, Dana, people need to be able to go to the doctor, pay for that visit, get well, and buy their prescription at an affordable price and have it not break the bank.
Yeah.
It matters to everyone, and we can see when we don't support public health how devastating it is to our economy. So first and foremost, that's what we have to work on. But there's so many other issues, from common sense gun issues to environmental issues, and I'd be open to whatever questions you have about that as well.
Good. Okay. So you know what? I'll be honest with you. A lot of the candidates that I've been interviewing have been local candidates trying to run right here in Indiana, and so when you're competing in rural areas, the topic of common sense gun legislation isn't one of the topics that they want to hit on too much, and I understand, right? But you talk about common sense gun legislation. What does that look like to you?
First and foremost, universal violent history background checks. We need to make sure that people we don't want dangerous people buying guns.
Right.
And I'll tell you, I live not too terribly far from the fairgrounds, for example, and you can go in there and buy a weapon. I want to tell you, I support the Second Amendment, and people should be able to do that. But I get a little bit nervous when they go out in the parking lot or meet someone through Craigslist and they're buying it from, some guy named Dwayne that they don't know. And
hey, any Dwayne's out there, we don't mean no harm.
Yeah, I love all of you, but I mean, we need a little bit more assurance. These weapons are in the hands of responsible gun owners, and that means passing a background check.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100% on that one. And tell me, the environment is huge, right? Some people don't even want to talk about it because they feel like it's not really because it's not hitting them right now, hitting them in the face. So they think, right? It's not something they can put their hands on, or talk about your vision of how we deal with this climate change crisis, because it's real. It's not going anywhere.
Well, this isn't partisan. Everybody knows that Indiana has been a coal state for so very many years. And we have some of the worst air pollution of any state in the nation. That said, there are things that we can do and take advantage of in terms of clean energy production that not only will help our air be cleaner, but it will also provide a lot of opportunity for people to be working in these technology-driven, new, cleaner areas of energy production. However, I will also say this, my greatest concern for the 5th Congressional District as it relates to the environment right now is water.
Yes.
Later, I drove for the first ever proper survey of water throughout our state, so we have an inventory really of where it is and where it isn't, because we have to ensure it's quantity first, but if the quality is there, the quantity won't matter. But for this district, this is the district where the White River runs right through it.
Okay. Okay.
The Creek watershed. This is the basin, the drinking water basin of central Indiana, which I would argue is the economic engine of our state. And water is life, water is health, water is also business. And many people that you'll speak with will also tell you water is likely the #1 economic development issue of the next 100 years. So it to your point too, sometimes it doesn't feel so urgent, but it's incredibly important. And that's for the water we drink and brush our teeth with, but for every purpose that we need it for. So ensuring that we are good stewards is priority.
Yeah, I was incredibly frustrated to see the bill pass that basically said manufacturers can't close down a coal plant once they deemed it time to close. A couple of reasons why it bothers me. One is we're supposed to be a free capitalist society, right? And these capitalists want, pretty much government to step off. But now we have these very same Republicans telling businesses who have deemed that their particular industry is no longer viable and they want to transition to something else, that we can't, no, you can't do that. You got to have our permission to do that first. And then the other part of it was, it's just not forward thinking, right? It's so like clinging on to what we've always done just because we've always done it, when we know that there are other industries that are coming online that could be much more profitable. When you saw that bill, because I know you pay attention to all that good stuff, when you saw that bill come through, what was your thought process?
And you're talking about that bill that Ed Soliday authored in the Indiana General Well, I have great concerns, and first because Indiana has an aging energy infrastructure. So the way we produce energy, our plants are old, they are tired, and no matter what, they're going to have to be expensively retrofitted or rebuilt anew. And that's also a great opportunity. And keep in mind, who's paying for all that? For these plants, it costs billions of dollars, like that coal gasification plant that was built in 16, I believe. Who's paying for it? I'll tell you, ratepayers. It's the people like us who pay a utility bill every month. So ensuring that we're building smart and that they're efficient is an area that I've long focused in. I actually reached across the aisle to work with a Republican representative, Sharon Nagel, and we were both fighting to ensure that we just would have transparency in the bidding process when you go to build a new plant, like you would if you're going to build a new school or something, because we are paying for that.
Yeah.
And so I think to complicate that issue just doesn't make sense, because once again, as I said earlier, there's also so much opportunity here for employment for this state in terms of clean energy and stepping up our game and doing it better and leveraging these opportunities now so that we can be cleaner, but also we can be some of the leaders in the way we do produce energy, and the opportunity is now.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna just, we're gonna end on a high note here because, we gotta do that. Now, in District 5, it's a little different in that the incumbent, it was a woman, and she's stepping down. But that is not normally the case, right? We know that, unfortunately, we as women are woefully underrepresented in our government. But could you talk about for just a second what it means to have won elections as a female candidate, and now what your vision is and what you think you can add to the discussion when you go to, once you get out of the primary and all that other stuff, you get to DC and what that looks like?
Oh, thank you. And that's a good point too, because around the world, the averages for city councils, school boards, general assemblies, parliaments, everything is that only about uh, one in 1 in 5
Yeah, it's like
members
23%, something like that.
are
Yeah.
women. And I'd also be the first person of Latino descent elected to federal office from the state of Indiana. And for a short time there in the Indiana General Assembly, I was the only person of Latino descent serving out of 150 legislators. I believe that government will be more effective and healthy when it reflects the people. So I bring a lot of that with me too. And something I bring is my grandmother's story, who came here. My grandmother Edith came here as an immigrant from Cuba, an orphan with nothing. She had a brother and some sisters, and that's about it. She had a difficult childhood, and I will say this, she was welcomed. And she was given opportunities to go to school and to work hard, and she built a life here. And I take her work ethic to heart. And I know when I was in that situation, when my brothers were both telling me I was going to be a loser, I thought of her and what she had to go through. And I just want to be part of setting people up for success. I am not going to be one of those people, and some people are really good at fighting at Twitter and, making a name for themselves. That won't be me. I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to find those people that care about the issues that are most important, and I'm going to get things done.
Well, you let me do the Twitter fighting and social media stuff. That's what I do. Indiana's own.
That's really good at that.
That's what I do. That's my job. You go create legislation. You create legislation. So
I'm proud of you for it.
Oh man, yeah. You and I have come a long way from the time we met way back in, was it 2015? When I decided I was going to run in 2016. But you have been really consistent, and that is the one thing that I think people miss. Like all of this helter-skelter, lying today, falsifying truths tomorrow is so tiring. But one thing I can say about you is that you have been consistent. You're Christina Hale today, you were Christina Hale yesterday, and I imagine you're going to be Christina Hale tomorrow. No matter what happens in the election, you're going to be who you are. And I think our nation needs that as much as we need anything else, is the level of consistency that you have shown to your constituents.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Man, I told you it was going to be kind of a love fest. I don't think people don't know. Like, you do so much behind the scenes. Like, people don't see, like, all the stuff that you've done for other people. Like, I will never forget, I was able to give my first high school commencement speech because you had invited me to an event up in Michigan City. I went up, met some amazing people up there, and then they invited me back to Michigan City to give a high school commencement speech. And that was like one of the highlights of my life, to know that I'm in a space where you're supposed to be launching people off into their new lives. But those don't happen unless somebody opens the door. And that's something I really do appreciate.
Oh, well, thank you. And I really believe opportunities to be shared, and it's a very elastic thing, and there's just so much more for everybody when you keep inviting people in.
Oh my God, yes.
And like I said, I talked about Deb and Jan. There are so many people that have helped me and still help me along the way that I'm just really, really grateful.
Good. And we're grateful for you. And I know this is a tough primary. You have some great candidates running against you, but that's the great thing about our party. We have amazing people, on many levels, and it's going to be a tough one. But what I do love is that we have 3 amazing women running and 1 amazing young millennial who is, brilliant beyond belief. And you were the last of the candidates. I had all the candidates on, and District 5 is really, really important. What did that mean? I lost my internet. Did I lose my internet? No. Are you still there, Christina?
I think so.
Okay, because it flashed across my screen that we lost internet connection. That was scary for a minute there. But yeah, it's all those community things, right? It's all those things that we do to improve lives. And you've already, kind of done that. And I think that, District 5 would be in great shape. Whoever came out, but definitely if you came out. So go ahead and give people your elevator pitch or your door knocking pitch, since you can't knock doors right now.
Oh, my elevator pitch. Well, I kind of gave you a little bit of it, but I'm just Christina Hale. I'm in it for the right reasons. I'm a problem solver, and I won't bore you with any more of my bio because your listeners have probably had a little bit too much of me by now. But I'm just somebody, like I said, who wants to help set people up for success and do right by my community. And I'll say this, Dana, you're absolutely right. We have a lot of good candidates on the Democratic side for this race, and I will proudly support whomever comes out of this primary. I'm going to do my best to make sure it's me, but you know what? I'm just proud and honored to be among them. We're a good little tribe.
That's what's up, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes more than one person to get it done. And you have definitely shown that you are definitely a team player. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm gonna get Liam on here shortly. Tell the people where they can find you so they can donate to your campaign or knock doors.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, anyone who wants to join us, we're at haleforcongress.com. That's HALEFOR Congress.com. You can find me on Twitter at HaleIndy, Facebook /Say Hale Yes, and I forgot my Insta in this moment. You have to Google me or something.
That's all right. And people can donate to your campaign and volunteer to make phone calls and whatever else?
Absolutely. We've got a lot of virtual work to do. So
excellent.
We can use your help. Thank you so much.
No problem. And thank you so much for joining. This was a pleasure because you know what? I was looking forward to this one. I've been begging you for a minute. Got you on. And you have a great evening. And good luck to you in District 5. Christina Hale. Congressional candidate, District 5. Thank you, darling. All right, that's my show for tonight. Indiana's own Dana Black, Turn Left, coming to you every week. Tomorrow, don't forget, we are going to talk to Crystal Allen of A Total Solution and her team and how they can help you with your tax solutions. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.